Existential crisis averted.
Now on to the next crisis.
Welcome, friends. We're back talking Star Trek Prodigy Season 2. We're up to Episode 6. This is the one entitled Imposter Syndrome. Now, there will be spoilers ahead, so take heed if those aren't for you. You've been warned. Let's crack into the episode. But before we get to that, I would just like to address a comment I made last video about wanting to see more of the Voyager A crew. That still holds true, but in that video I said I'd like to see things like the Chief Engineer or the Chief Medical Officer. Upon further reflection, Dr. Noom might actually be the Chief Medical Officer. I had it in my head that he's transferred to be the Chief Therapist or something like that. And I also said I didn't think the Doctor, the EMH, was. In this episode, he's seen treating patients. I thought he was more of some sort of mentor or advisor, but be that as it may, I probably overthought that. I still would like to see more of the Voyager A crew outside of who we've seen so far. This episode was actually kind of a nice break between what I assume is going to be big story arcs. Yes, there was still a lot of forward momentum as far as moving the characters and the plot along, but it was kind of also an episodic adventure within that. So the real whole crux of this is creating a holographic duplicate of all of our Prodigy crew. I actually like that. It's not something we've really encountered all that much in Star Trek before. Yes, we've had duplicates, we've had characters imitating other characters as a holographic version. We've had twisted versions on the holodeck of characters we know, all of those things. This is the first time that I can really recall we've created such correct duplicates of characters that neither of them are really aware which is the real one. Obviously, they both believe that they are the real physical version, and that kind of led to some nice intriguing things, especially at the end of the episode where we see things are going to carry forth into ongoing stories. Granted, they had to take a few liberties here to get away with this. That means that the Voyager A has to be 100% completely outfitted with holo projectors everywhere on the ship, and I don't think that really falls outside of the realm of possibility, especially on a ship named Voyager with an EMH intrinsically linked to that history of the ship and all of the struggles that happened because the Doctor was unable to leave sickbay. In that, it really makes sense that this is something that they would implement in Starfleet, making it so holographic support people could get around the ship. And we saw in Star Trek Picard that the La Sirena was outfitted with all sorts of holographic people and emitters, so it seems like that's kind of the tactic they're taking, at least in this point in Starfleet history, so I don't necessarily think that's out of the realm of possibility. It does feel a little bit odd that there was no other way to prove which character was holographic. It seems like there would be something that they could do to easily disrupt the hologram, but they even had throwaway lines about how these holograms were so well done. The Zero version had telepathy, they had physicality, it would even fool life signs, so it must be some sort of high-end souped up hologram that wouldn't necessarily be disrupted if you put a little bit too much energy into it or something along those lines. Again, just something I thought of, not really a nitpick on the episode. The whole thing was actually a pretty fun adventure between where we came from in this season and the headlong into the mid-season finale I think we're going to start picking up steam for in the next episode. During this, we got a little bit more interaction between Majel and Zero. I'm not entirely certain what their relationship is supposed to be at this point. Are they just kind of intrigued with each other? I kind of want more of this Zero exploration of the corporeal form and all of that stuff. It seems like they were building to that earlier this season. We haven't really dealt with it much since. And because there's so much other stuff going on, it makes sense we haven't had time to explore that, but it definitely feels like this is what we're heading towards as far as building that character out, and I think Majel is going to really kind of play into that. I don't know if they're trying to ship them as a couple or anything, but it definitely seems like they have the tools to complement each other as far as their nature of being, if you want to call it that. One thing I haven't mentioned yet, even though it's been in the back of my mind throughout this season, this ship is called the Infinity. Now, in Star Trek Discovery's final season, they referred to the place Kovich hung out all the time as the Infinity Room, with his revelations, again, spoilers for that, being a time agent, being Daniels. He is very intrinsically linked to time travel as well. Are these going to have any sort of connection at all? And I know infinity is just a concept and it's not really linked to this one moment in Star Trek history. I'm just kind of curious as to if they have any sort of link to each other whatsoever. Based on what I've heard about the development of Prodigy and how they weren't really connected with everything going on at Paramount, I wouldn't be surprised if they had no idea about Discovery's Infinity Room at all and they just happened to choose the same name. It would just be kind of interesting if they had a link, but I don't actually think they will. Like I said, most of the episode was actually just the hijinks between characters, not knowing who was the holographic version and who was the real original organic version. But the thing that really is adding a bit of spice to this, at the very end of the episode, after they force reset all of the holograms who had the personality templates of our real characters kind of downloaded into their minds, so they didn't realize they weren't the original. After all of that happened and they were reinitialized on the holodeck, it seems all of the personalities were swapped with other versions of the characters. So this is similar to a body swap situation that we've seen in countless sci-fi shows before now. I'm wondering if that's going to be the initial impression left on the Voyager A. So once they determine everyone is out of whack, all of these holographic duplicates are not acting like the right version, they're acting like another version of the character. I'm assuming that the head honchos on the Voyager A are going to think this is a body swap situation and try to resolve things that way, and then eventually they'll realize they're holograms, so that's going to lend our characters a bit more time and a bit more space out there before their ruse is actually uncovered. Overall, I think this was a pretty fun bridge interlude episode, but it seems like a lot of stuff is going to just be kicked into high gear next episode, and then we're going to thrust right into that mid-season finale. What did you think of this episode? How are you finding Prodigy? Leave all your thoughts down below. Like, share, subscribe, do all those fancy YouTube things, but until next time,
Let's jet before the doctor gives us more homework.